The rain fell in sheets across Chicago's downtown district, turning the streets into rivers of reflected neon and despair. Victoria Chun sat huddled beneath a coffee shop awning at 2 a.m., her suitcase beside her. The only thing her husband had allowed her to take when he'd shoved her out the door 3 hours ago. Barren. Useless. What good are you if you can't even give me a son? His words still echoed in her ears, sharper than the November cold that seeped through her thin coat. 5 years of marriage, 3 miscarriages, and countless fertility treatments had all led to this moment. Being thrown out like garbage because her body had failed the one test that apparently mattered. Victoria's phone buzzed. Another message from her mother-in-law. "You've disgraced our family. Don't ever come back." She turned the phone off. There was nowhere to go back to anyway. Her own family had disowned her years ago when she'd married against their wishes. The friends she'd had before marriage had drifted away, pushed out by a husband who'd isolated her systematically. The coffee shop was closing. A tired barista locked the door, giving Victoria a pitying look before turning off the lights. Victoria stood, gripping her suitcase handle, and started walking. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she couldn't stay still because if she stopped moving, she might never start again. Her feet carried her to Millennium Park. Even at this hour, a few people lingered. A homeless man sleeping on a bench, a couple arguing near the bean sculpture, a jogger with headphones who didn't see anyone but himself. Victoria found an empty bench and sat down, setting her suitcase beside her like a loyal dog. The rain had stopped, but water dripped steadily from the trees above, each drop like a tiny hammer against her resolve. She pulled out the envelope she'd been clutching since leaving the house. Inside were the divorce papers her husband had already prepared, waiting only for her signature. He'd had them ready, probably for months, just waiting for the right moment to discard her. Defective merchandise, he'd called her during their last fight. "I should have checked the warranty before I bought." Victoria's hands trembled as she tucked the papers away. She was 32 years old, homeless, jobless. Her husband had made her quit working 3 years ago, and according to multiple doctors, biologically incapable of bearing children. The word echoed in her mind. Incapable. She'd built her entire adult life around trying to fix that one word. Every treatment, every injection, every humiliating procedure. She turned herself inside out trying to create life, and all it had created was this. A woman alone on a park bench at 3 a.m. with nowhere to go and no one to call. "Excuse me, are you all right?" Victoria's head snapped up. A man stood a few feet away, holding a takeout coffee cup in each hand. He was in his late 30s, wearing an expensive-looking coat over what appeared to be running gear. Even in her dazed state, Victoria recognized the look of someone who'd been crying. His eyes were red-rimmed, his face blotchy. "I'm fine," she said automatically, the lie coming as naturally as breathing. "That's what I've been telling myself for the past hour," the man said with a bitter smile. "Want to know what I've learned? Nobody's fine at 3 a.m. in a park." Victoria looked away. "I don't need help." "Neither do I, apparently." He set one of the coffee cups on the bench beside her. "But here we are anyway. That's black coffee." They were out of cream. He walked to the next bench and sat down, leaving a respectful distance between them. Victoria stared at the coffee cup, steam rising from the small opening in the lid. When was the last time she'd eaten or drunk anything? She picked up the cup. It was still hot, warming her frozen fingers. She took a sip, bitter, strong, exactly what she needed. "Thank you," she said quietly. The man nodded. They sat in silence for several minutes, two strangers sharing space and sadness in the pre-dawn darkness. "I'm a failure," Victoria said suddenly, surprised by her own voice. "As a woman, as a wife, as a human being. I can't do the one thing I'm supposed to do." The man turned to look at her. "What one thing?" "Have children." The words came out broken. "I tried for 5 years. 3 miscarriages. My husband, ex-husband, threw me out tonight because I'm defective." "You're not defective," the man said firmly. "You're human. And being human means sometimes our bodies don't cooperate with our plans." Victoria laughed. A harsh, ugly sound. "Tell that to my mother-in-law. Tell that to every family gathering where everyone asked when I'd give them a grandson. Tell that to my husband who called me useless and broken." "Your husband is an asshole," the man said bluntly. "And I'm sorry, but that needs to be said." Despite everything, Victoria felt a small smile tug at her lips. He is an asshole. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like the video. Your comment means more than you think. It inspires me to keep creating stories that heal, teach, and move people. Certified. The man agreed. He took a sip of his own coffee. For what it's worth, I understand a little about failure. Tonight I missed my daughter's dance recital because I was stuck in a board meeting I couldn't leave. 5th one I've missed this year. She's 7, and she barely knows who I am anymore. That's different, Victoria said. You can fix that. I can't fix my body. Can't I? The man's voice was hollow. My wife died 2 years ago. Cancer. I threw myself into work because I couldn't face coming home to an empty house. Now I have 2 kids who need a father, and I don't know how to be one without their mother there to guide me. They fell silent again. Victoria studied the man more carefully now. She could see the exhaustion etched in his face, the expensive clothes that couldn't hide the slump of defeat in his shoulders. I'm Victoria, she said finally. James, he replied. James Winters. The name clicked in Victoria's memory. James Winters, CEO of Winters Tech, one of Chicago's fastest-growing companies. She'd seen his face in business magazines back when she was still allowed to read things other than pregnancy books. You're... Yes, he interrupted gently. But right now, I'm just a dad who's failing his kids. Same as you're just a woman who's been treated horribly by people who should have loved her. Victoria felt tears burning behind her eyes. I don't know what to do next. I literally have nowhere to go. James was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, This is going to sound crazy, and you have every right to say no. But I have a housekeeper who's been begging me to hire an assistant, someone to help with the kids, manage the household, be there when I can't be. It's a live-in position. Room, board, salary. Victoria stared at him. You're offering me a job? You don't even know me. I know you're alone, you're hurting, and you're at rock bottom. I know what that feels like. James met her eyes. I also know that sometimes the universe puts people in your path exactly when you need them. Maybe we're supposed to help each other. Why would you trust a stranger with your children? Why would you trust a stranger offering you a place to stay? James countered. Look, I'm not saying you have to decide right now, but my car is over there. I can drive you to a hotel for the night, no strings attached. In the morning, if you want to talk more about the position, we can. If not, I'll make sure you have enough to get on your feet elsewhere. Victoria looked at her suitcase. then at the park around them, then back at James's tired, sincere face. "Okay," she whispered. "Hotel first. We can talk in the morning." The hotel was nice. Far nicer than Victoria had stayed in during her entire marriage. James paid for a week up front, left her his business card, and told her to call when she was ready. Victoria stood in the shower for 40 minutes, letting hot water wash away 5 years of shame and pain. When she finally emerged, wrapped in the hotel's plush robe, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. Her face was gaunt, shadows under her eyes, her hair limp and lifeless. She looked like someone who'd been slowly dying for years. Maybe she had been. She picked up her phone and, for the first time in hours, allowed herself to think about the future instead of the past. James's business card sat on the nightstand. She could call him, or she could figure out another path. But what path was there? She had no job experience. Her husband had made her quit her marketing position 3 years ago. She had no references, no savings of her own, no family to fall back on. She had nothing except the choice to accept help from a stranger or remain proud and homeless. Victoria picked up the business card. 3 days later, Victoria stood in the foyer of James Winter's home, her single suitcase looking pathetically small against the backdrop of marble floors and soaring ceilings. "The kids are upstairs," James said, his manner professional now, different from their early morning encounter. "I should warn you, they're not easy. My daughter, Lily, hasn't spoken to me in 3 weeks except to tell me she hates me. My son, Marcus, is 5 and spends most of his time pretending I don't exist." "How did their mother die?" Victoria asked softly. "Ovarian cancer." James's voice cracked slightly. "Fast and brutal. 8 months from diagnosis to death. I was there for all of it, but somehow I missed the part where my kids stopped recognizing me as their father." Victoria followed him upstairs. Family photos lined the walls. A beautiful woman with dark hair and a radiant smile. 2 children at various ages. James looking younger and happier than the broken man walking beside her now. They stopped outside a closed door decorated with stickers and drawings. James knocked gently. "Lily? There's someone I want you to meet." No response. James opened the door. A girl sat on her bed, headphones on, deliberately not looking at them. She had her mother's dark hair and an expression of pure fury on her 7-year-old face. "Lily, this is Victoria. She's going to be helping around the house." The girl finally looked up, yanked off her headphones. "Another nanny? How many is that this year? 4? 5? "I'm not a nanny," Victoria said gently. "I'm more like a helper. Someone who'll be around when your dad can't be." "So always," Lily said bitterly. "He's never here anyway." James flinched. Victoria stepped forward, ignoring his gesture to stop. "You're right," she said. "I don't know your dad very well, but I know he works too much. I know he's missed important things. And I know that doesn't fix anything." Lily stared at her, surprised by the honesty. "I'm not here to replace anyone," Victoria continued. "Not your mom, not your dad when he should be here. I'm just here to make things a little easier. If you want me to be." "What if I don't want you to be?" "Then I'll stay out of your way," Victoria said simply. "But I'll still be here if you need me." It wasn't acceptance. But Lily didn't throw anything at her either. Victoria counted that as a win. Marcus was easier and harder at the same time. He was playing with blocks in the playroom, building elaborate structures only to knock them down violently. When Victoria entered, he looked up with eyes that held too much loss for a 5-year-old. "Hi, Marcus," Victoria said, sitting on the floor across from him. "Those are impressive towers." He said nothing, just kept building and destroying. "I used to do that," Victoria continued. "Build things up just to tear them down. It felt good to have control over something, even if that something was destruction." Marcus's hands stilled. He looked at her with those two old eyes. "My name's Victoria. I'm going to be living here for a while. You don't have to talk to me or like me. But I'm here." She stood to leave. As she reached the door, Marcus spoke for the first time. "Do you know how to build a castle?" Victoria turned back. "I might be a little rusty. Want to teach me?" For the first time, the boy smiled. Just a little. Just enough. The first 2 weeks were exhausting. Victoria woke at 6, made breakfast that Lily refused to eat and Marcus picked at suspiciously. She packed lunches, managed drop-offs and pickups, coordinated with the existing staff, and tried desperately to bring order to a household running on grief and neglect. James was barely present. He left before dawn, returned after bedtime, his face drawn with exhaustion and guilt. On the rare occasions Victoria saw him, they spoke only about logistics, Marcus's playdate, Lily's parent-teacher conference that he would inevitably miss. But slowly, imperceptibly, things began to shift. It started with Marcus, who began waiting by the door for Victoria every morning, his backpack already on, ready to tell her about his dreams. Then Lily, who began leaving her artwork on Victoria's pillow, never directly given, but clearly meant as gifts. Victoria found herself settling into a rhythm. She learned that Marcus hated broccoli but would eat it if she cut it into tiny trees. She discovered that Lily responded better to honesty than coddling, that she needed someone to acknowledge her anger rather than trying to fix it. One evening, 3 weeks into her stay, Victoria was reading Marcus a bedtime story when Lily appeared in the doorway. "Can you read to me too?" The question was quiet, almost inaudible. Victoria looked up, her heart clenching at the vulnerability in the girl's face. "Of course. Come sit." Lily climbed onto the bed beside her brother. Victoria read until both children were drowsy, then tucked them in with a gentleness that surprised her. She hadn't realized she knew how to be gentle anymore. As she turned to leave, Lily's small voice stopped her. "Victoria? My mom used to say good night like this. See you in dreamland." Victoria's throat tightened. "See you in dreamland, Lily. See you in dreamland," Lily whispered back. From that night forward, the children started calling her by name instead of just the helper. It was such a small change, but it meant everything. The breakthrough with James came unexpectedly. Victoria had been living in the house for 6 weeks when she found him in his study at midnight, head in his hands, surrounded by papers. He didn't notice her at first, so she watched from the doorway as his shoulders shook with silent sobs. "James?" she said softly. He looked up, quickly wiping his eyes. "I didn't hear you come in. Lily had a nightmare. I was checking to make sure all the lights were off." Victoria hesitated. "Are you okay?" "It's her birthday," James said, his voice breaking. "My wife. She would have been 40 today." Victoria stepped into the room. The kids mentioned it earlier. Lily wanted to make a cake. They remember. It wasn't a question. I don't know what I thought, that if I worked hard enough, made enough money, provided enough things, they wouldn't notice how much they'd lost. They haven't just lost their mother, Victoria said gently. They've lost you too. You're still here, but you're gone. James flinched as if struck. I know I've failed them. I just don't know how to stop failing. Victoria sat in the chair across from his desk. Maybe start by being here, really here. Not perfect, not the father you think you should be. Just present. What if I don't know how anymore? Then fake it until you remember, Victoria said. That's what I've been doing since I got here. Pretending I know how to be the person they need until someday I actually become her. James studied her in the dim light. You're not pretending. I see how they look at you. They trust you. They feel safe with you. Because I'm honest with them about my own brokenness, Victoria said. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I just show up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. They sat in silence for a moment. Then James asked, why did you really take this job? The truth. Victoria took a breath. Because you offered me a chance to be useful when I'd been told I was useless. You saw me at my lowest and didn't judge me. You gave me space to exist as something other than a failure. You were never a failure, James said firmly. Your ex-husband was a failure as a husband, as a human being. You were just a woman going through something terrible. And instead of supporting you, he blamed you for it. Victoria felt tears forming. Do you know what the hardest part is? I still sometimes believe he was right. That I'm broken and defective and worthless because my body can't do this one thing that's supposed to be natural. You're not worthless, James said, his voice intense. You've brought life back into this house. You've given my children something I couldn't. Stability, consistency, someone who sees them and actually stays. If that's not valuable, I don't know what is. Victoria wiped her eyes. Thank you for everything, for giving me a place when I had nowhere else to go. Thank you, James countered, for making this place feel like a home again. Something shifted between them in that moment. A recognition, an understanding that went beyond employer and employee. Two broken people who'd found unexpected shelter in each other's company. 3 months into Victoria's stay, James made a decision. He came home at 6 p.m., a minor miracle, and asked Victoria to help him cook dinner. Together, they prepared spaghetti while the kids did homework at the kitchen table. It was chaotic and messy, with sauce splattering and Marcus dropping an entire box of pasta on the floor, but it was also perfect. After dinner, James announced family game night. Lily was suspicious at first, but when James proved to be hilariously bad at Pictionary, even she couldn't help but laugh. Victoria watched from the kitchen doorway, cleaning up, feeling something dangerous bloom in her chest. This wasn't her family. She was still just the hired help, regardless of how much time she spent with them or how attached she'd become. But then Marcus called out, Victoria, come play. We need you on our team. And James looked up with a smile and said, yes, come join us. We're not complete without you. Not complete without you. The words settled into Victoria's heart like seeds in fertile soil. She joined them at the table, and for the first time in her entire adult life, Victoria felt like she belonged somewhere. The shift from employer-employee to something more happened gradually, then all at once. It started with lingering looks and accidentally touched hands while cleaning up. It progressed to late-night conversations after the kids were asleep, James and Victoria talking about everything and nothing while sharing tea at the kitchen table. One evening, 6 months after Victoria had moved in, James found her crying in the laundry room. Papers were scattered around her. The divorce documents she'd finally signed, ending her marriage officially. "Hey," James said softly, kneeling beside her. "What happened?" "It's done," Victoria whispered. "My marriage is officially over. I should feel relieved, but I just feel empty." "You're allowed to grieve," James said. "Even when you're leaving something that hurt you. You're grieving the dream, the person you thought you'd be." "I wanted children so badly," Victoria said, tears streaming down her face. "It was all I thought about for 5 years. And now I have this beautiful life with your kids, and I love them so much, but they're not mine. They'll never really be mine." James took her hands gently. "Victoria, those kids love you. They need you. Lily asks for you when she has nightmares. Marcus won't let anyone else take him to school. You've become essential to them. But I'm not their mother." "No," James agreed. "But you're Victoria, and that's enough. More than enough." He pulled her into a hug, and Victoria let herself break down completely, sobbing into his shoulder while he held her steady. When she finally pulled back, James cupped her face gently, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. "You're not broken," he said firmly. "You're not defective or useless or any of the horrible things anyone has ever called you. You're beautiful, kind, and strong. And I—" He stopped himself, seeming to realize what he was about to say. Victoria's breath caught. "You what?" James looked at her with an intensity that made her heart race. "I think I'm falling in love with you. Actually, I know I am. I have been for months. And I know that's inappropriate and probably unwelcome, but I can't keep pretending." Victoria kissed him. It was impulsive and terrifying and perfect. When they pulled apart, both of them were crying. "I love you too," Victoria whispered. "I thought it was wrong to feel this way, that I was taking advantage of your kindness or confusing gratitude with something more. But it's not gratitude. It's love. Real, terrifying, impossible love." James laughed, pressing his forehead to hers. "Nothing about this is traditional or expected." "I don't want traditional," Victoria said. "Traditional left me homeless and alone. I want this messy and complicated and real." They held each other in the laundry room, surrounded by half-folded clothes and divorce papers, and chose each other completely. They told the kids 2 weeks later, both nervous about the reaction. Lily was suspicious at first. "So Victoria's going to be our new mom?" "No one's replacing your mom," James said firmly. "Your mother will always be your mother. But Victoria, if she agrees, might become a different kind of family." "Like a bonus mom?" Marcus asked. Victoria smiled through tears. "Exactly like a bonus mom. Someone who loves you extra, in addition to all the love you already have." Lily studied Victoria carefully. "Do you promise not to leave?" "The last 3 helpers left. You're the only one who stayed." "I promise," Victoria said. "I'm not going anywhere." "Good," Lily said. Then, more quietly, "I'm glad Daddy loves you. He smiles more now." The wedding was small. Just the 4 of them, close friends, and the housekeeping staff who'd become family. Victoria wore a simple dress, held a bouquet of wildflowers that Lily and Marcus had picked themselves. As James slipped a ring onto her finger, he said, "I promise to honor the journey that brought you here. I promise to see you, all of you, and never make you feel less than whole." Victoria's vows were just as meaningful. I promise to love your children as if they came from me, even though they didn't. I promise to be present, to stay, to choose this family every single day. But the most powerful moment came during the reception, when Marcus tugged on Victoria's dress and said, "Can I call you Mom now?" Victoria knelt down, her vision blurred with happy tears. "You can call me whatever feels right to you." "Mom feels right," Marcus said simply. Then he hugged her tight. Lily joined the embrace a moment later, and James wrapped his arms around all three of them, and they stood there. A family forged not from blood or convention, but from choice and healing and love. 2 years later, Victoria stood in Marcus's bedroom, helping him pack for summer camp. He was chattering excitedly about archery and swimming while she folded t-shirts and tried not to cry about how fast he was growing. "Mom," Marcus said suddenly, "can I ask you something?" "Anything. Are you sad that you couldn't have kids? Like, kids from your body?" Victoria stopped folding, taking a moment to compose herself. This was a conversation she'd known would come eventually. "Sometimes," she admitted honestly, "there are moments when I feel sad about it. But Marcus, I need you to understand something very important." She sat on his bed, and he climbed up beside her. "I spent years thinking I was broken because my body couldn't create life in a traditional way," Victoria said. "But then I came to your house and I met you and Lily and your dad, and I realized something. Family isn't just about biology. Love isn't just about blood. So we're your real kids even though we didn't come from you? You're the realest thing in my life," Victoria said firmly. "I may not have carried you in my body, but I carry you in my heart every single day. And that's just as real." Marcus hugged her tight. "I'm glad you're my mom, even if you didn't birth me." "Me too, baby. Me too." That evening, after the kids were asleep, Victoria found James on their bedroom balcony, looking out at the city lights. "Thinking about something?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Just how lucky I am," James said. "How close I came to missing all of this." "We both did," Victoria said. "I was sitting on a park bench with nowhere to go, thinking my life was over, and you were running away from a home that felt empty. And now," Victoria smiled, "now I have everything I never knew I needed. A home, a family, a purpose. You gave me that." "You gave me that," James corrected, turning to face her. "You brought life back into this house. You taught me how to be a father again. You showed my kids that love doesn't end, it just transforms." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city breathe below them. "Do you ever regret it?" Victoria asked softly. "Offering to help a stranger in a park? Taking such a huge risk?" James thought about it seriously. "The only thing I regret is not finding you sooner. You were exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it." "Funny," Victoria said. "I was thinking the same thing about you, because sometimes your worst moment becomes the doorway to your best life. Sometimes being thrown away is actually being set free. And sometimes the family you need isn't the one you planned for. It's the one that chooses you when you're at your lowest and says, 'Come with me.'" Victoria Chun had been called broken, defective, useless. But standing in James Winter's arms, with 2 children sleeping peacefully down the hall who called her mom, she knew the truth. She wasn't broken. She'd just been becoming herself all along. And that self, scarred, strong, and full of hard-won love, was exactly who she was meant to be. If this story touched your heart, remember, your worth isn't determined by what you can't do. It's defined by how you rise, how you love, and who you choose to become after everything falls apart. Sometimes the life you planned falls apart to make room for the life you're meant to live.